Hey everyone, my name is Sara Harberson. I'm America's college counselor. We've got another Facebook Live Q&A. This is a chance for families to ask questions about the college admissions process. I've been doing these Facebook Lives for, I think, almost 10 years, and they're all recorded on my Facebook page for Sara Harberson and also Admissions Revolution. I love doing these live Q&As because they give me a chance to help a lot of families in need, parents, students, even counselors who are curious about things. If you're new to these Facebook Live Q&As for me, I run Application Nation, several different groups. They are college counseling communities for students and parents who are going through the process. But the thing that started it all way back when were these Facebook Lives, these Q&As, where families could ask admissions questions, and I was happy to answer them. And it really dates back a long time ago when I was a high school student applying to college. I didn't have any guidance. I didn't have a college counselor. I only had a guidance counselor. There weren't a lot of students who went to college where I'm from, the high school that I attended. So I had to figure out things on my own, and I made a lot of mistakes. And then the moment I arrived on that college campus as a freshman, I started working in the admissions office, first as a tour guide, then as a college senior intern, and the rest is history. So I've been working in college admissions and college counseling for the last 25 years, and I'm really just in my 30s. Not really, but I've been doing this a really long time. So it's a great honor and pleasure to continue to do these Facebook Lives, so that if you are not a member of Application Nation or Application Nation Class of 2025, you can still get access to great, accurate, reliable information from me. All right, but I think the questions have already started rolling in, so I want to try to tackle them and see what's on your mind. I know there are a lot of students picking classes for next year. They're wrapping up the school year. They're wondering about AP exams, SAT, ACT. There's a lot of controversy out there, not only because some colleges are going back to requiring testing, but because it's really hard to get a spot at an SAT, ACT testing center these days. So I'm sure you have questions about those things and much more. So why don't we get started? And I love seeing some familiar names pop up. Families that have done Application Nation once, twice, sometimes even more than that, or just some families that have been following me for years. So thank you so much for being here. It's so good to see you all. All right, first question. Do you find percentage acceptance stats or GPA stats more reliable in terms of finding reach, target, etc. schools? Okay, so this parent or student is asking a really important question, because when a student or a family is putting together a college list, you really need to look at those acceptance rates for the colleges that you are considering. And you don't just want to rely on some just random Google search or look at a guidebook for acceptance rates or an outside blogger or some test prep company or college counseling company that puts together acceptance rates. You need to go straight to the source. I always tell my Application Nation families that going straight to the source means that you want to get your acceptance rate or any admissions data from the college and the college's admissions office. And you want to go to the admissions office website and look for the most recent admissions data. Ideally, it will be the admissions cycle that just finished. So colleges just finished admitting the class of 2024, which will be the class of 2028 for college. You want to try to get your hands on that admissions data. Acceptance rates are changing every single year. So if you look at an acceptance rate from maybe 2 or 3 years ago, it's probably not accurate. It's probably a lot more selective just in that short period of time. So I am a big believer in identifying the type of student or your child is, and then putting together a college list based on acceptance rates and that student classification. Obviously, if you need help identifying the type of student or your child, the type of student your child is, or putting together those college lists, obviously that's a lot of information and a lot of stuff that we do in Application Nation if you are interested. Next question. My 2025 son wants to major in data science. He'll be taking AP Calculus AB and AP Stats next year. How important is it for him to also take AP Computer Science A? He's taking AP Computer Science Principles. Wow, you know, it's so interesting. I want to write a blog about this. I haven't gotten a chance. There's always something much more pressing, but I want to write a blog or an op-ed about how high the bar has gotten for all of these students. You know, when I first started in college admissions, if you had AP Calculus AB, you were good to go for a lot of those STEM majors. And now expectations are much higher because those STEM majors have gotten so competitive. So for a student who wants to major in data science, you want to have the most advanced level math class that you can handle that's available at your high school. So in some cases, it could be AP Calculus AB. At a lot of high schools these days, though, they actually will offer AP Calculus BC. That would be the most important class that I would want a data science student to take. AP Statistics, great class. Makes sense for a data science student, makes sense for a lot of STEM majors, but it's not as important as the most advanced level calculus that you can take. So if you have room in your schedule, yes, I'd love to see AP Statistics on the student's transcript. And frankly, I would like to see AP Computer Science Principles and AP Computer Science A if possible, especially if you are applying to highly selective colleges. And I hate saying all that, all of those things that the students have to take. Remember, it's not all about these highly selective colleges. There's so many great four-year institutions out there, and some of those very selective and selective colleges could be even a better fit for the student. My daughter took AP Seminar in place of English 10, okay? School considers it a core class. How much will it hurt her for not taking English 10 class? This is a very nuanced question. You should be in Application Nation. I love that you're asking this. Okay, so my rule of thumb, I have lots of rules, but one of them is my 5-4 plan. I talk about it all the time. I've written blogs about it. I want every single student in Application Nation, any student who's applying to a four-year college, to follow it. It basically means take all 5 core subjects for all 4 years of high school. So your 5 core subjects would be English, math, science, history, foreign language, or ancient language. And it's important to take all 5 core classes, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade if possible, unless there's a scheduling conflict. A few years ago, the College Board launched this AP Capstone program. It's a 2-year sequence, and students will take AP Seminar and then AP Research. There are a lot of high schools that offer both of those classes, AP Seminar and AP Research. And at some high schools, it actually counts as an English class. If that counts as an English class, AP Seminar, for example, for 10th grade, you're usually going to be okay. While colleges prefer to see AP Seminar or AP Research as an extra class, an add-on class after those 5 core classes are taken, if your high school counts it as an English class, most colleges will count it as an English class as well. But if possible, try to take AP Seminar, AP Research as an additional class, a 6th class, which I don't recommend for most students, but some students can really handle it and really enjoy it. So I think you should be fine. I think your daughter should be fine. Jody, oh, the essays you shared were amazing. They highlighted either minority backgrounds. What do you recommend about an Indian boy, which even though is a minority, but not a scarce background? Okay, so Jyoti, thank you so much. So Jyoti is a member of Application Nation class of 2025. Woohoo! We just finished a half hour ago our Zoom call tonight, and I showed some of the best essays from Application Nation class of 2024, essays that we had edited, really successful students in the admissions process. So that's what she's commenting about. She's right. A lot of the essays, a lot of the topics that I approve in our Application Nation class of 2025 group are going to be about a student's background. So let's talk about that. Race, ethnicity, family makeup, socioeconomic background, even the geography of where you're from can turn into a beautiful topic for the main college essay. What I say to students is, with affirmative action ending last June, admissions officers no longer can see those racial check boxes that are on the application. So if the student is coming from a unique racial ethnic background, the admissions officers will not know that unless you tell them that. So I always say that if a student is coming from a more unique or underrepresented background, make sure you write your main college essay about that so that it's very clear. Some will argue to me, well, there are a lot of colleges where you can write about your background through a supplemental essay about diversity or lived experiences. Yes, there are some colleges that instituted supplemental essay prompts about lived experience or diversity after affirmative action ended, but not all of them do. And even the ones that do, it's usually a really short essay, a fraction of what the main college essay could be. So I encourage my students, especially those coming from underrepresented backgrounds, those would be students who identify as Black, Hispanic, Native American, or Indigenous students. It's really important that you write your main essay about that background so it's clear in the application, because these admissions officers are looking for those types of students, and they want to look out for them, and they want to make sure that their diverse student body does not suffer because of affirmative action ending. Now, this mom is asking, well, what if your child comes from an overrepresented background? Overrepresented backgrounds in the applicant pool would be generally white students, Asian American students, including Indian American students. I still believe that it's all about celebrating who you are. If your ethnicity, if your race, if your background is so much a part of your identity and you recognize that, by gosh, you should be writing your main college essay about it. Everybody's background is truly unique. You've got to find the right angle. You got to find the right topic. I will help you if you're in our group, but yes, if that is important to you, it should be represented somewhere in your application, and the main college essay is one of them. We have so many beautiful essays over the years from students who are coming from overrepresented backgrounds, but still find a thread that is unique to them that they write about. So I'm really supportive of it. Is September or October the last date to test for early decision and early action? Okay, so great question again. Hi, Sandra. So if you are interested in applying early decision or early action, let's first talk about those deadlines. There are a few colleges like the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, for example. Their early action deadline is October 15th of the student's senior year. That's early. There's only a few schools that have an October 15th deadline. Most of the early decision and early action deadlines are going to be November 1st. Most colleges will say that if you're applying early decision or early action, you want to try to get your testing done by October. That would be ideal. So September there's an ACT, and October there's an SAT. Usually you will be able to submit your application, and you can always submit updated test scores after the fact. And some colleges even permit a student to send updated test scores even after the deadline. So if you are curious or you don't know for sure and it's not clear on the college's admissions website, contact the admissions office and find out. When we're contacting an admissions office to find out an answer that we don't know, we don't just call once, and we don't talk to the student worker. So these are some tips. Call a couple of times on different days. Talk to different people to make sure you're getting consistent answers from them. So for early decision, early action, I would try to have all testing done by October, although in some cases you could still take the November SAT and still send those scores in after the deadline for some colleges, usually the private colleges and universities more so than the public ones. Hi, Shannon. Aloha, Sara from Fawn. Hi, I know you, Shannon Fawn. Yes, wonderful. I'm asking about AN 2026. My son just got into school for Native Hawaiian students for 11th grade. Should he explain why he chose to move schools? in 11th grade in the additional information section. I know you usually advise against using that section too liberally, Fawn. You know me so well from your oldest. All right, so that's super cool that your son got into what sounds like a special school or a special program for Native students. Incredible. I know how important that background, that identity and heritage is to your family, and I absolutely love it. So where do you put that information? Well, I know the application like the back of my hand. I know every question on Common App so well because I spend my life on it, basically. So there is a section in Common App called Education, and you indicate what high school you currently attend. And then there's going to be a question about, have you attended other high schools? And you indicate yes in this instance, and if it was one other high school, you list one, and then you will be prompted to list what that previous high school was. The moment a student transfers high schools and indicates that on Common App, it triggers and prompts a box to pop up in the education section. And I love this box. It provides space for up to 250 words to explain why the student moved from one high school to another. Sometimes it's simple, the family moved states or moved towns. Maybe it was because the high school wasn't offering the student what they needed. Maybe the student got into some special program. There are lots of reasons why students transfer. So you would provide that explanation in that box in the education section. And I love that box. They didn't always have that in Common App. It's, I would say, the last 10 years or so. The reason I love that box is there were so many students writing their main college essay about transferring high schools. And when I would see that essay as an admissions officer, as a college counselor, both sides of the desk, I would go, oh, that's a missed opportunity, because it's really hard to write a full-blown main college essay for 650 words about transferring high schools, because it happens all the time. So instead of worrying about that for your main college essay, or even using the additional information section for no good reason, you've got that section in the education part of Common App, and you will provide a reason. You don't need to use all 250 words for that reason. Just keep it short and sweet and keep it positive. Even if there was something really negative about the previous high school, you want to try to put a positive spin on it. Okay, great to see you, Fawn. I hope your daughter's doing well. I need an update. All right. Okay, and the mom was just the data science mom, this mom of a son who's interested in data science. She was just clarifying that he's already taken AP Computer Science Principles. That's wonderful. If he's able to take AP Computer Science A, that would be great as well. Sorry for that clarification. Next question. My son is trying to decide if it is better to do a running start program where his junior year is at the community college and gets an associate's degree, or stay in the high school and take AP exams instead. Also, should he take the SAT this summer before sophomore year? All right, so great questions. Let's start with the first one. If your son is looking at highly selective colleges and universities, both public and private, I would highly encourage him to stick with the high schools, stick with the courses that are offered at his high school, and take the most challenging classes that are available to him at the high school. In admissions officers' eyes, those would be the AP classes or the equivalent. Some high schools could have the International Baccalaureate program. Some high schools may not have either curricula, so they might call it advanced classes or advanced topics classes, or maybe honors are the highest level. But take advantage of the most challenging curriculum at the high school before you check out college classes or even community college classes. If your son is thinking about staying in state and attending a state institution, then doing the associate's degree is probably going to allow him to get advanced standing and credit and possibly be able to graduate sooner. So it really depends on the types of colleges that are going to be on his list. But if he's aiming high for those highly selective colleges, I would prefer that he exhaust the curriculum at his high school before he accesses courses at a local community college or even an online high school. Your second question was about the SAT. SAT, when should students be taking the SAT or ACT? It would be highly unusual for me to ever recommend that a student take an official SAT or ACT before junior year of high school. Most students are not ready to take an SAT or ACT before then. So I recommend that the summer between sophomore and junior year, the student begins to dig in and really dedicate themselves to test prep. Whether they're studying on their own, they're taking a test prep class, or they're getting one-on-one tutoring, I recommend that they start tutoring or preparing for the test the summer between sophomore and junior year. Most students aren't even ready to take the SAT or ACT at the beginning of junior year. They need a little bit more time. So most students are going to be taking the SAT or ACT at some point during junior year. If it's a naturally strong test taker, sometimes they can take it at the end of the summer right before junior year or the fall of junior year, but most students are going to begin to take standardized testing midway through junior year or the spring of junior year to start. Also remember that there are some random colleges like Carnegie Mellon out there that they want to see SAT or ACT scores from junior year on. So that's another reason to wait. Hi, David. What is your opinion on taking a gap year during the junior year of high school? I was accepted to Nestle or NSLIY and will still graduate with the class of 2026. All right, so this program that this student got admitted to is one of the most respected programs that high school students can do. It is a fully funded language immersion program that is sponsored by the State Department. And there are almost like endangered languages or languages that are not necessarily or normally taught at high schools across the country. So students can live in that country abroad for junior year, let's say, live with a host family and learn the language in the most incredible way. So the students who end up doing that tend to be really special students. And we have a student in AN 2025 who did that last year. I believe it was in Korea. You know what? That student is so incredible. So colleges aren't going to care that you take a whole year off to do that. They're going to see that program and really recognize how special a student you are. Keep in mind, though, that those students doing the Nestle program or NSLIY program, those students tend to love learning languages. They're interested in languages, they're interested in linguistics, they're interested in global studies and international relations. So if you're doing it, I would really encourage you to be thinking, does this match up with my major choice? And if so, do it. Don't worry about it. You're going to get so much out of it. Given the difficulties some elite colleges have had this year maintaining an inclusive environment for all students, do you anticipate any tilt away from applicants with passion and toward kinder toward kinder applicants who demonstrate intellectual curiosity and true tolerance? This is an interesting question. So it's, and this is a delicate one, right? So we've seen this past year that colleges have been in the news almost on a daily basis. There have been protests, there have been encampments, there have been Senate hearings, there have been university presidents that have stepped down. It's interesting, if you look at the colleges that made the news a lot, they tended to be the highly selective colleges and highly selective universities. Will the admissions committees at those institutions, will they be trying to figure out who those kind souls are, the ones that are going to bring peace together? I think to some extent they will be, yeah. But it's hard to show that you're a kind person, that you believe in peace, that you bring people together. And so there are opportunities where you can show the type of person you are. Pick teachers to write letters of recommendation that really know you and see your heart and see your mind. The activities that a student does, it's not just what activities you do, it's how you present them. I do this, I find it to be one of the most pivotal Zoom calls for every Application Nation group in August, right before the students start senior year. The entire Zoom call is how to present your activities in your common application. And the reason I do this is because so many students will say, well, I'm not a huge leader, or I didn't get a patent, or I'm not, making waves, nationally or internationally. I say you don't have to. It's all about seeing the things you do and being able to present those activities in a way that shows your heart, that shows your intellect, that shows the type of compassionate individual you are. So it's all about how you present those activities. I think writing about your, how you approach difficult situations and conversations is a tough essay to pull off. So I wouldn't force it. I think it can come through in other parts of the application. And I do think those admissions officers are going to be looking for people to bring their community together. Natalia, we are done, but still love these sessions and curious. Thank you so much. I think I have an email in my inbox from you. I will get back to you over the next couple of days, I promise, Natalia. Is it better to take an AP class or do an internship? Absolutely, 100% AP classes and core classes. There are a lot of students, they reach senior year and they leave halfway through the day to do an internship. You've got to make sure that you've got your 5 core classes every year of high school, including senior year. Internships to me are great for summer or breaks, or sometimes, if you have time after school, but you don't want to sacrifice those core academic classes. Each child has so many qualities. How do you identify what quality to highlight? Can an essay show, not tell, multiple qualities? It can show multiple qualities, but I think students approach the college essay and they try to take on too much. So I was approving topics on the AN class of 2025 discussion board. I think it was this morning, and there was a student who presented to me 3 topics, and I basically said to that student, you've got about 9 or 12 topics in these 3 topics, so you don't have to tackle too much. So, tonight we talked about the actual topic, the one thing that should be framing the essay. And if you lead with that, there are going to be these beautiful qualities that come through in the essay just naturally. But you don't want to tackle too much. I always, talk about the main essay as this concentrated, very flavorful, tiny, thin slice of your life. I often compare it to, I still dream about this. I used to live in Philadelphia, and De Bruno's is this incredible cheese shop in Philadelphia. And they also, will slice prosciutto or even lox. And the guy who does it, he's this incredible guy, and he has this very sharp knife, and he's slicing it so thin, paper thin, those slices of prosciutto. Or if you're Jewish, you shouldn't be eating prosciutto, you should be eating the lox. And it's so thin. But when he hands you that piece, it's so concentrated and so full of flavor. So think about your topic like that. Pick something that is so powerful that can carry that full essay. And again, those natural, incredible qualities, those life lessons, those realizations will come through naturally. Hi, Karen. Is there any benefit in pre-college programs for high school? So I assume you're talking about those summer programs that are usually held on a college campus. I'm not a huge fan of them for a couple of reasons. One is they are usually very expensive. So not just a couple $100s, they're usually thousands of dollars. And not a lot of students can afford them. And what a lot of families don't realize is that the admissions offices on those campuses that are hosting those summer programs don't even want to see those programs on a student's application. There are a couple of exceptions. You know, Wake Forest does a lot of summer programs for high school students, and when you do it, it can show demonstrated interest and can help in the admissions process. But for most of those colleges, those summer programs are just really expensive. There are a lot of students who have a great experience doing them. Some parents feel it's really important for their kid to spend time on a college campus to gain some independence. I understand that. I do think most students, once they get to college as freshmen, they immediately see that independence and they adapt really well. So I don't think a summer program is kind of the answer. And some students feel like they get exposure to an academic field. I would just encourage students to look around them in their community when it comes to summer experiences, or consider a fully funded program like that NSLIY program that other student asked about. If a college says that they don't track demonstrated interest, is this really the case? Hi, Lisa. Are there things students can do to get some kind of a connection with the AO? Yeah, you know, these colleges, they're not very transparent. So, you know, me being from New Jersey, I try to be the transparency queen. But I also need families to understand that sometimes colleges say one thing and do another. So when it comes to demonstrated interest, first, what is it? Well, some colleges use demonstrated interest in the admissions process, which means they're not just looking at the student's application. They're looking to see how invested, how much love, how much interest the student has shown the college before and during the admissions process. So doing an official admissions tour and information session, attending a presentation at your high school or in your community for that college, saying yes to an interview. These are all forms of demonstrated interest. If a college says that they don't track demonstrated interest, we have to believe them. And if they're lying, they should not even have an existence, in my opinion. You can't lie. They do not want students lying in the application process. Colleges should not be lying in the admissions process. So a couple ways to figure out if a college uses demonstrated interest. First is you can look at a college's common data set. That is a public document that all colleges are supposed to fill out, but not all do. You go to section C, that's the one on freshman first year admissions. You scroll down to that big chart. Those are all the factors that the college uses in the admissions process. The last thing on the chart is called level of applicant's interest. The options are not considered, considered strongly, or and then the ultimate, considered significantly. I don't know what the categories are, but you get the sense. If the college indicates that level of applicant's interest is at least considered, you got to figure out that you got to pretty much guess that they are using demonstrated interest almost 100% of the time, but there are some exceptions. I worked at the University of Pennsylvania for 10 years of my career. They indicate that level of applicants' interest is considered, but they don't think about it in terms of demonstrated interest. They mark off considered because they have early decision and they fill a significant portion of their freshman class through early decision. Duke does the same thing. So if you're curious, you see it on the common data set, but you're not sure, pick up the phone, call the admissions office. As much as I love student workers, I was one of those student workers answering the phones when I worked in the admissions office as an undergraduate student. This is a question you really want to speak to a professional staff member. There's usually an admissions officer on duty every single day that will answer these questions. You need to get it straight from them. If an admissions officer lies about that, they should be fired. So they won't lie about that. So how do you show these admissions officers demonstrated interest? I'm not a big fan of the student emailing the admissions officer, especially if it's a highly selective college or university, or even a very selective college, for two reasons. Number one, you're going to be disappointed. 9 times out of 10, the admissions officer never replies to that email. That wasn't me, by the way. I always replied to every single email. Number two, they start to get annoyed. They do not want students hounding them over email. They do not necessarily even want to meet you the day of your visit unless they are the AO on duty, the admissions officer on duty. They're not going to remember you when you apply that you visited on April 27th and they were the admissions officer on duty. They are meeting so many students every single year and handling thousands of applications every year. And a lot of times they might switch regions anyway, or they might leave the office. So the best way to show demonstrated interest for a traditional college that uses demonstrated interest, make sure you do an official visit through the admissions office, do the tour, do the information session at the very least. If you love that college, you should, and they have early decision and you can commit to it, I would highly recommend applying early decision. If you're applying early action or regular decision, the best way to show demonstrated interest is to write the best supplemental essays for that college that you can possibly write. So you shouldn't be including, this is my first choice. You just want to be able to show it's your top choice by how well written, how well researched it is. Okay? All right. Hey, Catherine Flynn. Long time no see. All right. One more question. Hi, Sarah. What's the next level rigorous math course after AP Calculus BC that's highly regarded by colleges? Well, AP Calculus BC is highly regarded. Very few students can reach that level of calculus by senior year. But if you have, and your high school offers post-calculus classes, amazing. So what are those classes that are highly regarded by admissions officers? Multivariable calculus, linear algebra, differential equations, graph theory. Those are some high-level math classes. Not all high schools are going to offer it. So a couple of things that you can do if your high school doesn't offer those classes. See if the math department will do an independent study with you and do one of those classes for credit and for a grade so that you get credit and a grade for that hard work. You could take an online high school class. A lot of online high schools like Laurel Springs, Apex, UC Scout, Stanford Online High School, CTY Johns Hopkins Online High School, they will offer some advanced math classes. The other option is to take it at your local community college for a fraction of the cost. So it doesn't matter how you take it, where you take it, those classes are really, really impressive. And if you are going to be a STEM major and you have those classes on your transcript, it's definitely going to impress those admissions officers. All right, it's after 10 o'clock here on the East Coast. I have not eaten dinner yet. So I'm gonna wrap up for this Facebook Live Q&A, but I'm so glad all of you were able to make it. I am a big believer in sharing knowledge and yes, being transparent. So if you don't have the budget to join Application Nation, I have so many free resources available on saraharberson.com. I write a blog every single week. I've got free downloadables that you can get just by providing your email address. And I try to do these lives, these Facebook Lives, every couple of months too, because this is where it started for me. And I hope that it can be helpful for all of you. So take care, everyone. Have a great night. Talk to you soon. Bye.